All right. Test reviews today. That's what we're going to be working on. I have it recorded. So basically, also what I'm going to do towards the end of the period, I'm going to pass out your updated progress reports because some of you really need to see where you are and what you need to do to either improve or maintain. You have your study guide. All right, take it out. Valerie, study guide. Okay. And you did have an opportunity to start working on study guides last time. Because some of those questions were you could answer. No one knows. What else do we have? Just have it out, just in case. That's the one. Yeah. All right. So here's what we're going to do. Now, some of these questions you can answer already. But then there are some that we're going to have to do some work. Anybody have any questions for me before we get started? So we're going to try to get as many done between now and the end of the period. And some of the stuff you may have to do on your own, I just want to go over the main points. Main points. So you do well. Now some of these other questions, you already know what to do. So let's get started. All right, I'm going to zoom in. Oh, wrong one. Now, some of these we already know right off the bat. So, for instance, this first question, the sum of the interior angle measures in any triangle must equal exactly how many degrees? 180, very good. 180 degrees. That one give me no doubt. So, because every triangle, the sum of the three angles will always be 180 degrees. So, that's no matter what. You have 70, 60, I'm just making something up, 50. No matter what, it adds up to 180. Now, what about the next one?
90 degrees.
Right angle is 90 degrees, exactly. Yeah. I gave it to everybody last time. If you check. And how can we always figure out when we have a right angle? What symbol? Little square. So it looks something like that. Okay, you need your study guide, which I gave to everybody. So that's how that we answer the first two questions. Okay, so far any questions on the first two? It's basically, this is known stuff, known knowledge that we already know. We shouldn't even have to go over that. All right, what about here? This is basically just, if you just draw or point or whatever you want to do. So You can just use the triangle. So for instance, which out of the three sides, which two are the legs? There's your leg. There's the legs, A and B. And then what's the hypotenuse? C is your hypotenuse. Remember, you can just and why is C the hypotenuse? Who could tell? It's across in the right angle. So here's your right angle. So yeah, hypotenuse. Oops. That's your hypotenuse because here is the right angle. Right angle. All right, so far, any questions? So these first three, I mean, we already know this. I mean, I'm not going to go too much more into detail, but this is good to know. We need to figure out which two sides form the legs, which one is the hypotenuse. Of course, the hypotenuse are always across in the right angle. So those are things that we should know by now. And I mean, you don't have to write this, but I will type it. It's always across. I mean, that's in always and forever. Sorry about that. All right, questions. So that's given stuff. Again, you don't have to write it, but just be aware. Hypotenuse crossing the right angle. All right, here we go. Now, these next few problems, they're all going to involve the Pythagorean theorem. So I will have you all try them. So for the next few, it's at a squared. So Pythagorean theorem, which you will get on the test. I will give you that formula. You will have some formulas. Oops. I'm going to just type it in. Let me type that in. Pythagorean theorem is A what?
A squared plus B squared equals C squared.
A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Good. As always. And again, you always need a right triangle. So basically for the next, I'll have you try the next three. Now again, remember, you have to label. So if this is your right angle, And remember, which one is always the largest, A, B, or C? C. It's always the largest. That's your hypotenuse. And that's longest side. And then, of course, does it matter how we label A and B? No. And you're kind of using this for the next three problems. So for these two, well, this one, you have to figure out which of the following sets. So if I have an A, B, C, you need to figure out if you square A plus square B, does it equal the square of C? And you have to do that for both of them. Now again, for that second option, 40, 9, 41, which one out of the three do we have to make C?
41.
41. And then again, the 40 and the 9 can be in either order. So that's how you would do number 4. Basically, plug them in. Do your A squared plus B squared plus C squared. Do the same for the bottom. Now, and then what you can do, and I'm going to give you a few minutes to try this whole page. Because for number 5, or number 6 rather, with this triangle, the 5, the 12, and the X, well, again, you're doing the A squared plus B squared equals C squared deal. Copy. But now, here's your question. Which side do we have to designate as C for this bottom problem? Which side are we designating as C? 5, the 12, or the X? X. And then, what's that? What do you mean, Valerie? What, 12, 15, and 18? Did you check? You have to check. I would check that one more time. You haven't done so. Because, yeah, 12. Yeah, I would definitely be careful with that. It's the other one. Yeah. If you try it, you definitely have to try it at home, but in the end, you'll figure out which one will work. And so, yeah, Valerie, in the end, this one's going to work. That will not. But you have to understand why. Which one. No, I'm not saying to you. I'm just saying in general. You have to understand who works and why. All right. Anybody have questions up to this point? So basically, this whole page is just Pythagorean theorem. Basically, here for 5 and 6, rather than giving all three sides, you have to find that missing side. The same thing. No, 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 no. Both cases. These two problems. You're gonna have to follow this rule. Now, unlike this problem, here, which one's our hypotenuse? 40 is the hypotenuse. Because unlike the previous one, there's your setup. But unlike problem 5, problem 6 though, or 6, 7 rather than the top one, the bottom one, well, what's going to be A, what's going to be B? Who could tell us real quick for the bottom triangle? Which one's A, which side is B? Or does it not matter? Doesn't matter. Well, be careful. Where's the 40? Yeah, because you got to be careful. This is where a mistake can easily happen. Because we tend to put these two numbers together. You can't do that for this problem. So yeah, you can put B and A right there. Okay. Now, for both cases, when we solve, what do we have to do at the very end to get the variable by itself? You have to take it's two words. First word begins with an S, the other one begins with an R. Well, this one you're going to have to do some subtraction. But the very last step in both cases, well, let's talk about it. 5 squared is what number? Yeah, you got to find that square root in the end. So you're right, 25 and 144, add them up. You got 169. That's C squared. But in the end, we need C. So what do we have to do to the C squared to get to C? What do you have to do? You said it, Jason. Square root that. So you have to find the square root of 169, which is 13, exactly. Now here, somebody did say, oh, we have to do some subtraction. Yes, you're right. Well, who can tell us what 24 squared is? Say it one more time, a little louder. It's 576. Well, that should be 1600. Now for this problem, what do we have to do? Yeah, you have to subtract 576. Ah. X squared is what number? It's 1600 minus 576. Say that again. Okay, so 1, 0. Okay. Now, how do we get from x squared to x? Just like before, we need to. Gotta do that square root. Ah. So our x would be, yep. So note the difference between this problem. If you have to find a missing leg, where you do have to subtract. After you evaluate, subtract, then you take that square root. Like here, you could remember both numbers are on the same side. Combine them, then square root. That's all you do here for the hypotenuse. But if it's this one, and do that. Remember, you cannot forget to do your subtraction. All right. Any questions up to this point? That's basically okay. Questions? All right. Now this one. Let me see what okay, I know what we're doing after this. Okay, this one's about the same. So remember, here's your leg, hypotenuse. You may be getting a problem like this where one of your numbers will in fact could be a decimal. And it's just like before, you have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So you will have that. And I'll just give you the setup because I want to really focus on other problems. Now this one is going to be more like the previous problem. You will have to subtract after you evaluate and then get your value. You have a squared plus 100 equals 289. Yep, you would minus 100. Again, notice say again. 89 or what's 289 minus 100? 189. Remember, you got to be careful with that subtraction. So if we took the square root of 189,
32.7.
yep. This guy. It'll be this guy. So more than likely, you're going to get at least one of these types of problems where you're going to have to subtract the two numbers, then square root. I'm telling you that right now. All right, now, the Pythagorean theorem, I think we're okay. Anybody have any questions on Pythagorean theorem? Now, the second part, I know I'm not the biggest fan of how this printed. Yeah, I have a feeling I don't like how this printed, but basically with the 45, 45, 90 right triangle, this is your proportion. So for 45, 45, 90, this is your proportion. Leg over hypotenuse. So if you want, I'll write it bigger. L for leg. Hypotenuse equals 1 over square root of 2. So for the 45, 45, 90, this is the proportion we use. I use this proportion. Now, sometimes that's going to be the best way, but it also depends on what type of problem you get. Because I think the one concern is going to be that radical too. Let me.
You take 1 over the square root of 2.
Yeah. But the other part, remember, L is leg, hypotenuse H, but we have to identify. That's what we're going to, so in fact, here's what I want you to do. Flip to the next page in where you have, this is the first problem on the side, it says 4 square root of 2.
Number 10.
Yeah. I want you to rewrite this proportion on the top of that page. I want you to rewrite this. L over H equals 1 over square root of 2. On the top of that page. So go to the next page. So I need everybody to go to the next page. So it's very important. Everybody's on the next page. So flip to the next page, please. Because I want you to write exactly what I have. See what I have here. L over H equals 1 over square root of 2. But I want you to write it on the next page. And go to the top of the next page. So that we don't have to flip back and forth. So, Andy, same thing. On the top of that page where you are, I want you to write that L over H equals 1 over square root of 2. I need everybody to do that, Joshua. Right? That L over H equals 1 over square root of 2. I need you to write it on that next page so it's easier for us when we do these next two problems. Square root. Don't forget that square root symbol for that 2. You really need that. The square root of 2 and regular 2 are very different. Okay. I'm going to use this for both. For the next two problems. All right. First off, let's look at this triangle over here. All right, let me make this, I'm going to try to make this a little bit bigger too for all of us. Okay. What's given to us? The 4 times square root of 2. What is that, a leg or a hypotenuse? That's a leg. Alex and Jason are right. So right away, what can we fill on this side of the, what can we replace, the L or the H? L. And the H you're going to replace with an X because we don't know what the hypotenuse is. We don't know it yet, but that's it. Write an X. You can do that. Now, do we have enough information to solve for the X? You do. What do we have to do here? What's in every proportion? What must we do? Multiply diagonally or crisscross multiplication. There we go. So of course, 1 times X, what is just 1 times X? All right, we don't have to worry about too much there. Now, what about this part? We have 4 square root of 2. All right, very good, because here's what happened. 4 square root of 2 times your other square root of 2. Des said in the end, the X is going to be 8. And she's right, because what happened here? What happened with this square root of 2 and that square root of 2? When we multiply these two together, what does this just become? Just a plain old 2. So that then in the end, you just have 4 times 2, which we found out 4 times 2 is 8. You're done. That's all you do for that problem. All right, anybody have questions on that first one? Okay, aren't you really quick to try that second one? Try that second one on your own. So again, take this same proportion. L over H equals 1 over square root of 2. You're going to use that again because here's why. Here's why we're going to use that one again. All right, does everybody have this one? You have that one? Catherine, you have this one? Okay. So what we're going to do, we're going to take the same problem. So if it says either leg, you're still okay. All right, now, if we look at this one, what do we have here? This is a hypotenuse. So right away, we have a 90-degree angle here. Now, these two sides by the line, that means, what do we know about these two legs? They're the same. They are congruent. So if they're congruent, what do we know about the measures of these two other angles?
They're equal.
They're equal. So what's the only number that could possibly work? If we already have 90. 45. Yep, you have to have 45s here and there. So I want you all, there might be something you see, oh, I don't know what these angle measures are. But you know this is 90. And you know if these two are the same, then by process of elimination, these two angles have to be the same as well. And the only way that will work is if you have a 45 and a 45. So then we can use our little proportion up here. Now, when we set up our proportion, obviously you have 1 square root of 2. What's going to be on the top? The 7 square root of 2 or a variable? Variable. Well, what could we use? Yeah. It's our leg we don't know. Well, you can always designate as an X. And then the other one, 7 square root of 2. Now we're back to what type of multiplication here? Got to do your cross multiplication here. And this was pretty easy because here's what's going to happen. Well, what's 1 times 7 square root of 2? What do we have going on for this side? Just don't do the decimal yet. In fact, I wouldn't do that for now. Just leave it at 7 times square root of 2. Don't. Okay. You here last time? No, you in class last time? Okay, we're working on a review. So in the end, it's a little easy for us. Is that better? Or should I flip it? Is that better? All right. So for this one, 1 times 7 times square root of 2. Just leave it at 7 square root of 2. Well, remember, you don't see it, but it's really 7 times square root of 2. And here's why that's going to be important. Because on this side, you have an x times square root of 2. Everybody see what we have going on here? We have a 7 times square root of 2 equals x times square root of 2. Both sides are both being multiplied by, we see in the end, the x is being multiplied by square root of 2, right? The 7 is also in the end being multiplied by square root of 2. Does everybody see that? So to make our lives very easy, this is a one time where you can just divide both sides by the square root of 2. Because both sides have a square root of 2 as a factor. So the quickest way to get rid of it, because in the end, what's square root of 2 divided by square root of 2? What does that all become? Say it? Not nothing. 1. That's a 1. That's a 1. So in the end, you're just going to have an x. And then what happens to these square roots of 2? If it's the same on the top and the bottom, it's also a 1. Now, some of you could have multiplied both sides by square root of 2. I'll show you that in a second. So in the end, what's our value of x? What's left over here? It's the plain old 7. Now, what I told you in the past, let's say some of you, going back to this line, I'm going to just show you real quick. If you did 7, square root of 2, x, square root of 2. If you multiplied both sides by square root of 2, right? Some of you might have done this step. So I'm going to show you the other way you could have done it, which is okay. Now, in both cases, when we multiply square root of 2 by square root of 2, what does that become? What does the square root of 2 times square root of 2 just become? 2. So in both cases, right here, it's just 7 times 2 equals x times 2, or 2 times x, right? Everybody see what's going on here? So 7 times 2, x times 2. Well, what's 7 times 2? Equals, well, x times 2 is the same as 2 times x, right? And then the very last step in both cases, we divide both sides by. And then what do we get? What's 14 divided by 2? So you still get 7. So some of you might have done the safe route, which I'm never going to doubt you. If you want to write it out, safe way out, I'm good with it. I'm always going to be good with it. I'd rather you take that extra step and understand what's going on versus if you do too many shortcuts, boom, you may make a mistake. But that's the other way you could have done it. Both ways work in the end. All right, questions? I'll give you all a moment to breathe, look at it, think it over. And then I think the next few problems, I think are going to involve that 30, 60, 90. Yeah, 30, 60, 90 is going to be the next couple of problems. So when we're ready, we'll talk about those. Anybody got any questions on the 45, 45, 90 train? You had 2. He's only had 2. All right. Now, the next one we got to talk about. Thirty, 60, 90. Again, you're only going to use, we're going to use one of these, two of these three for the problems that we're going to do next. Long leg, short leg, hypotenuse. So here's what we're going to do. On the next page. Well, actually, this is not so bad. I want everybody to hold their notes like this. Spread like wings. Turn yours over. Yeah, that idea. Yep. Because here's what we have. On the bottom, if you're holding your notes like this, on the bottom of your left side, yeah, your left side, you see all three proportions that we need. Does everybody see that? They're on the bottom left side right here. Does everybody see the three? Valerie, Zoe, Valerie, I want you both to have notes looking like this. Whatever you miss, you can get back later. But I need you to be. Next page. I know where you need to be. Valerie, open your notes like this. Like the wings, like the bird wings. Good. Now, everybody's exactly where they. I just want everybody to highlight this part of the notes. Because you're going to need at least two of the three to complete the next three problems. That's why I want everybody, Joshua, you too, I have to have everybody have the notes look like this. Like this. All right, go back. Open them up. Yep. Because these guys, I want you to circle these three on the bottom. Because we're going to use these two of these three for our next set of for the next couple problems. That's why I want everybody to keep their notes exactly how I asked. Spread like wings. Spread eagle wings. That's what I need everybody to do. All right. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go. Let's go to the next problem. And what we need to do, we need to figure out, given what we have, what we need to do to solve the other two. So when we look at this triangle, we need to identify short leg, long leg, hypotenuse. Now, right away, which one is the hypotenuse?
The U.
The U is the hypotenuse. Now, since we're given a 30-degree angle, is the 2 the short leg or the long leg?
Short leg.
That's your short leg. So that means the V is the long leg. All right, now we need to figure out from the other page which two of the three ratio proportions we will use. Well, right away, which value or which side has a value? Is it long leg, short leg, hypotenuse? Which one has an actual number? Short leg. So here's what we're going to do. We have to use the short leg over long leg. And then short leg, hypotenuse. Now, short leg, long leg, It's the 1 square root 3. And then for short leg hypotenuse, it's 1 over 2. Now the short leg in both cases is, so long leg is a V, short leg 2, hypotenuse is U. Now, do we have enough information to find both the short leg and the hypotenuse? I want y'all to do it. It's only going to take maybe 2 minutes at most. Because in the end, in both cases, all we're doing is just what operation? Begins with an M. That's it. That's all it is. Because in both cases, for the variable, you're just multiplying the variable by what number? We'll do our crisscross multiplication. Your variable's just being multiplied by 1 in both cases. Really, there is not a whole lot we have to do at all for this problem. Because really, in the end, okay, what's V times 1? Or 1 times V? V. And then, if we multiply 2 times square root of 3, do we really have to do anything? No. That's just 2 rad 3. And that's a short. So that's the long leg. V was the long leg. And then for the hypotenuse, that's real easy. Because similar, U times 1 is just U. But what's 2 times 2? Do we have to do anything else? No, that's it. We're done. That's all we had to do, ladies and gentlemen, for that problem. That particular one, it was that simple. But the name of the game is you have to figure out, once you set up your triangle, what do you have in order to help you find what you need to find. But that's the goal. That's why I'm telling you all, it's so important to label that triangle. Once you label that triangle, from there then you figure out, do your cross multiplying. If you need to take care of that square root symbol, we can. That's not hard. Okay, does anybody have any questions on this first problem? All right, now, the second one, what did they give us for the second one? What's given here? Got a hypotenuse is C. There's your short leg, that's B. All right, long leg's 5 square root of 3. Okay, now, here's what we're going to do. Well, we have two options. Well, what might be the easiest to find right away? What might be the easiest to find right away? Say you have a couple options. We're given the long leg, so we're going to have to do a little bit of work. But which one of the three proportions can we use right away? Long leg with what? Pick one. Okay, so we can go long leg, short leg, okay. Short leg, long leg, 1 square root of 3. Okay. Because we have long leg is 5 square root of 3. And then what's the short leg? What letter? What letter's our short leg?
B.
B. So we have B over 5 square root of 3. Actually, I should write it. I'm going to write that all over here, because we're going to need more room. Equals 1 over square root of 3. Now, as always, what do we need to do? We have our proportion. We need to do what, ladies and gentlemen? It's cross multiplication. Yeah. Now, this one's not going to be so bad because, well, what's 1 times 5 square root of 3? What's really going to happen here in the end? What do we have in the end? What's 1 times 5 square root of 3? What do we have? You just have 5 square root of 3. And then I'm going to put a, and can we also say 5 square root of 3 is the same as 5 times square root of 3? Okay. And then over here, you have B times square root of 3. Now, in this case, since both sides, do we see both sides are being multiplied by square root of 3? What's the quickest way we can, what's the quickest step we can get to get the variable by itself? By divide by square root of 3. That's all you have to do for this one. Since both B is going to equal 5 because the square root of 3's go away, and you're left with B equals 5. Now, this is real nice. Here's our short leg right here. We have our short leg, which is 5. Now, does anybody remember the quickest way we can go from the short leg to the hypotenuse in a 30, 60, 90 triangle? Does anybody remember what was the quickest way we can go from short leg to hypotenuse? Anybody remember? So if we want to go from short leg to hypotenuse, what number can we multiply the short leg by to get the hypotenuse? Anybody remember? Yep, that's it. Multiply the short leg by 2. Boom, there's your hypotenuse. You don't even have to worry about proportions and all that business. So short leg was what number?
5.
5, yeah. And then what's 5 times 2? 10. Equals a hypotenuse. So then the hypotenuse will be 10. 5 times 2 is 10. There's your hypotenuse. Bang, you're done already. Yeah, so if you want to go from short leg straight to the hypotenuse, all you have to do is multiply by 2. So yeah, short leg. Well, if you want to go short leg to hypotenuse, multiply by 2, that's all. So if you have the short leg, double it. Bang, there's your long leg. I mean, there's your hypotenuse. You're done with the whole thing. Anybody have any questions? So if you want to go short leg to hypotenuse, and that's for the 30, 60, 90, that might be a hint you might want to write down somewhere. 30, 60, 90. Just multiply short leg by square root of 2. Boom, there's your hypotenuse. You're done. Questions, anybody? Okay, the last one. Last one of this type. Now, they gave you a hypotenuse. So, all right, before we get to the last one, does anybody have any questions on this problem? So I'll give you a moment. Write that down. So the last one, before we get down there, I want you all to indicate what's what on that triangle. What's the short leg? What's the long leg? What's the hypotenuse? So I want you all to do that on the last triangle. Okay. Ready? All right. For this triangle, what is what? What's what for this triangle? It's your hypotenuse. And then what is our, is S the short or the long leg? Long leg. And what's the short leg? Okay. Now, do you want to know the quickest possible way we could solve this problem? You all want to know. Okay. Well, careful. Where do we start? Well, we know that the short leg to the hypotenuse, yeah, if you're going short leg times 2 is hypotenuse. But what does that mean now if we're going to go from hypotenuse to the short leg? By? Yup. So the short leg is the hypotenuse divided by 2. So if you want to go from hypotenuse to short leg, I'm going to write it the other way. This might be easier for some of us. Oh, looks like I can't do it that way. Okay. I'm going to rewrite it, but not by much. I'm going to just switch the order. So the hypotenuse, we agree, is the short leg times 2, right? So then that means if we want to get the short leg by itself, we divide the hypotenuse by what number? So we get the short leg by itself, we divide the hypotenuse by 2. You got to divide by 2. You divide both sides by 2. Hypotenuse divided by 2 equals the short leg. So you might want, that might be a nice little tidbit to know, because now, if we go this way, right? So we agree? Hypotenuse over 2, short leg. Well, what is our hypotenuse? What number is the hypotenuse? So we just divide 6 square root of 3 divided by 2 And you're going to get your short leg that way. That's the quickest way to get to the short leg. So then what two numbers are we going to divide? Hold on. To get the short leg, what's the only thing we have to do? What two numbers do we divide here? Yeah, just a one. Yeah. What's 6 divided by 2? And then your short leg's going to be 3 times square root of 3. That's the short leg. Questions on that part? Going from hypotenuse to short leg. Just divide your hypotenuse by 2. So that's all you do. Go from here to here. Divide by 2. Now, who wants to know the quick way from short leg to long leg? You're going to multiply by something. By what? Almost. You're on the right track. We're going to go from short leg to long leg. We multiply by
4.
Well, what's with the 3? It's something with the 3. Is it 3? Square root of 3. So you're going to go from, so if you want to go from short leg, long leg, short leg times square root of 3. That's going to get you the long leg. That's the simplest trick. So, in this case, well, what is our short leg? 3 square root of 3, okay? So you have 3 times square root of 3 times another square root of 3. I should have done it like that. Careful, careful. What's 3 times square root of what? Okay, when we combine the square root of 3's, what do we get? What's square root of 3 times itself? What's that? Multiply. Square root of 3 times square root of 3. Multiply square root of 3 by itself. What's going to happen to the square root signs? They're going to go away. So it's just going to be a... No. 3. Yeah, square root of 3 times square root of 3 just becomes 3. If we multiply here, if it was dividing, then it's a 1. No, here, rather than add, we are... Nope. Multiplying. That's multiplication. That's multiplication. And then what's 3 times 3? There's your long leg. So your long leg is going to be 9. I'll put it up there in a moment. So yeah, this long leg, S, is going to be 9. So I'll leave it up there for a second. Okay, questions on that one? But yeah, that's the quickest way out. You have hypotenuse, divide by 2. Bang, there's your short leg. Once you get your short leg, multiply by square root of 3. Bang, there's your long leg. So that's the quickest way out. If you have a short leg, multiply by 2, boom, there's your hypotenuse. If you have your short leg, multiply by square root of 3, bang, there's your long leg. I mean, the only time we're going to have to do some work is if you're given the long leg. If you're given a long leg, yeah, you're going to have to do work. But once you go from the long leg, you get the short leg or you get the hypotenuse, then you can take the shortcut to get to wherever you need to go. All right, anybody have final questions on these problems here? Because I know it's been a while. And these problems, part of that, one of the last homework assignments that's, for quite a few of you, now overdue. Okay, questions before we go to the trig identities. Because the trig identities, that's going to be easier now because we did a lot of these. We've done a lot of them. That's all we were doing last class. So basically, we're going to do the following. And it's just a matter of identifying what's given to us. All right, questions before we go to the trig identities. Might have enough time to knock them out real quick. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just tell you what to do with these. So at this point, we're almost out of time, but we have time. All right. Obviously, let me view out. Okay. Trig ratios. Again, you have to identify that angle first. That's most important. And then opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse, with respect to the angle. And then you solve with the proportion method. Because remember, it'd be sine, cosine, tangent. Remember, you put your angle value, whatever your angle is. Angle measure goes with whatever. But identify your angle, locate your 3 sides, or identify the 3 sides, and then solve proportion method. Questions before we go on? All right, now, let's look at this. So for the first one, sine, cosine, tangent of what angle? What angle are we looking? What angle was given to us? Angle. Which one is it? 15. Sine, cosine, tangent of angle. All right, we need to be on that next page, everybody. What angle? B. We define angle B. Got to do that first. And then from there, well, what's always a hypotenuse? Which one? It's always across on the right angle. So in this case, it's a 25. So from angle B, which is the opposite? The 7 or the 24? Which side's opposite? Somebody got to tell me. There's angle B. Okay, does 24 touch angle B? Remember, you have to look at what angle is being identified. That's going to tell you which side is opposite, which side is a hypotenuse. And then in the end, I'm just going to type that out. The sine of B would equal your opposite. I'm just going to put the slash hypotenuse or O divided by H. And then the cosine of B equals, well, am I going to use the opposite or the adjacent to get the cosine? Chart is right above you. What letter? Adjacent for the A, yup. And then the tangent of B, equals opposite over adjacent. So now, do we have enough information to find? All you're doing is just replacing. So for the sine of B, what was our opposite? What number? 7, 24, 25? What number? The opposite.
7.
And then what was our hypotenuse?
25.
What about cosine of B? What two numbers? What over what?
24 over 25.
Yup. And then the last one. What over what? What's our O? 7 over 24. Good. So that's sine of B, cosine of B, tangent of B. Questions? Okay. Now, really quick. Next page. Well, I know we don't have a whole lot of time left. I'm just gonna. The next ones aren't gonna be that bad because it's not as long as you think. Because for this one, I just want you to figure out. Here's our 63. Are we using sine, cosine, or tangent? So given, you're going to be using a sine because you have a hypotenuse, opposite. That's an automatic sine. You have to use the sine. So I just want everybody to get that down. Then what you need to do, so 16A, you're picking the sine. And if it's 16B, same triangle. So it's the sine 63 equals what over what? What's going on the top? What's going on the bottom? So sine is what over what? It's going to be 12 over x. So that's the opposite. And that's hypotenuse. So yeah, it's going to be 12 over x. Now, remember, this is over 1. Now, to make your life easier, what could we do with the sine of x, the sine of 63 and the x? If we want to make our lives easier, what can we? Yeah, you can rewrite this as x equals 12 over sine of 63. You're going to get the same response. Okay, questions on that one? So I apologize. I know we're almost out of time. That's why I'm going to knock these out real quick. So you have to use the sine because you have an opposite and a hypotenuse. That forced us to go to the sine, and then the sine, there's your setup. Say again? What is the final? That's the sine of 60. What is that? Is that the x? Well, be careful. If this is x, Got to be careful there.
13.46.
It's going to be the 1346 because the hypotenuse has to be larger than the 12. I think we did dividing or something. Or more, or no, we multiplied 12 times the sine of 63. You were supposed to divide. That's what happened. All right. Next one. Okay, 29 degrees. What's given to us real quick? I have an X and a 29. Obviously, there's our hypotenuse. What other side was given to us? Is that an opposite or an adjacent for the X? Adjacent is the X. Opposite, we don't know. So then out of the three, tangent, sine, or cosine? Cosine, that's right. Zoe, was that you? Yep, you're 100% correct. That's a cosine. So given that, so we have to use the cosine. 29. That means, where's the X going? Is that going to go on top or the bottom? My X. That's going to go on the top. There's your adjacent. 29 has to go. So it's cosine of 29 equals X over 29. Now, Valerie, you said it earlier. Okay, put that phone down. We're not out of class yet. Then I correct everything I just said. Disregard my last comment. I am sorry. You are 100% correct. Okay, you got a freebie, okay? I'll give you a freebie. So next time I catch you with the phone, you get I'll give you a slide, okay? Now, you said it last time. What's the quickest way we can solve this type of problem? Yep, that's all you have to do and you're done. That's all you have to do. Because remember, cosine of 29 is an actual number. When you multiply 29 times cosine of 9, you're going to get your answer right away. You get your answer. So yeah, you do this, boom, multiply these two, bang, you're going to get your answer. Which should be what number out of the three? Yeah, good. Now the last couple. Sorry, we got to rush it. Sorry, we're going 100 miles an hour. But for the last couple, it's one of these guys. And that's going to be real quick. So basically, depends on where your angle's located. So basically, in the end, it's going to be the inverse sine, and you're going to just be dividing the two numbers. But you have to look at what two numbers are given to you. So for the first one, here's our angle. What's given to us? Huh? But what are they? Well, where's the 8 with respect to the X? Say again? If it's then it'll touch. But if it's a cross, it means it is. Yeah. So which one out of the three? Which one's opposite hypotenuse? Yep. Sine. Boom. And remember, that's just a calculator key. You're allowed to use this type of calculator on the test. That's just it. So if you have to look for the angle, you use this one. And it's just a plug and chug. It's just 8 over 11. Bang, you're done. And the last two are going to be the same, because the last one with angle A is going to be the cosine. Inverse cosine. 32 over 45. And for the very last one, for angle B, and it's a tangent. So remember, opposite, adjacent, opposite, adjacent. So it's a tangent, or inverse tangent. 9/6. Now, you will, here's what I want to do real quick before we go. I'm going to give you two things, progress report, and I will let you know you will get, you're going to be allowed to use some formulas. This is the most up-to-date progress report. Italy and Catherine. Felix. And Nicholas. Yep. Day 2, 3.